The night glittered with wealth inside the Crystal Bay Hotel. Laughter echoed, diamonds sparkled, and polished marble reflected endless light. At the center stood Sabrina Lockage, a woman used to power and attention. With a playful smirk, she tapped the piano and declared, "If anyone can play this flawlessly, I'll marry them tomorrow." Guests roared with laughter, never imagining the challenge was real. But then, from the shadows, a young janitor paused. Khalil Brantley set his pitcher down. His steady eyes burned with something no one expected. Khalil's footsteps echoed faintly as he crossed the ballroom. Conversations hushed, replaced by whispers and curious stares. The janitor's navy shirt and worn shoes looked painfully out of place among glittering gowns and tuxedos. But his steady walk carried a quiet defiance. He stopped at the piano, resting one hand on its polished edge. For a moment, his reflection shimmered back at him from the black lacquer surface. Sabrina tilted her head, her smirk sharpened by the camera flashes still hovering nearby. "Are you auditioning, young man?" she teased, her voice laced with amusement. Guests chuckled, exchanging glances as if the spectacle had already failed before it began. But Khalil didn't flinch. His voice was low, even, and steady. "If you meant what you said, and then let's find out." That answer unsettled the room. Some people leaned forward, intrigued. Others folded their arms, waiting for the embarrassment they believed would surely follow. Sabrina gestured with her manicured hand. "By all means," she said, settling into her role as hostess and provocateur. "The stage is yours." Khalil slid onto the bench. The uniform clashed against the piano's elegance, but his posture was calm, almost reverent. He closed his eyes briefly, fingers hovering over the keys as if asking permission. Then, with one breath, he began. The first notes were soft, fragile, like a secret whispered into the room. A ripple of laughter started, but it died almost instantly. Because those notes didn't stumble, they flowed. Each tone carried warmth and precision, delicate yet confident. His hands moved with surprising grace, weaving a melody that lifted above the clinking glasses and drew silence from every corner. In seconds, the ballroom's arrogance gave way to something else: disbelief. The janitor was no longer invisible. He was commanding the room. The melody deepened. At first it was careful, almost hesitant, as though Khalil were testing the instrument. Then, with each passing note, confidence emerged. His left hand pressed strong, resonant chords, while his right danced freely across the higher keys. The sound was full, textured, alive. The crowd shifted, phones lowered, glasses paused halfway to lips. Even the waiters carrying trays of champagne stopped in their tracks. The hotel ballroom, once a storm of chatter, fell into a hush that felt sacred. "This won't last long," someone whispered near the buffet. But the certainty in that voice faltered when Khalil slipped effortlessly into a rapid sequence, fingers flying as though the keys belonged to him. The air vibrated with sharp clarity. Sabrina leaned lightly on the piano, still smiling, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of something she had not expected: doubt. She had meant her words as a joke, a tease for the cameras. Yet the janitor's music was no joke. It was powerful, raw, undeniable. "Where did he learn that?" a man in a dark suit muttered. "Probably YouTube," another answered, though his tone carried no conviction. Khalil ignored them all. His shoulders swayed gently, his eyes fixed on the keys as if the rest of the world had vanished. The music swelled, warm and rich, rising like a tide and then falling into soft, aching whispers. It wasn't polished perfection, it was lived experience poured into sound, and the room felt it. A woman in pearls clutched her husband's arm. Another pressed a hand to her lips, eyes glistening with something she didn't expect to feel at a fundraiser. Sabrina tapped the piano lid again, more to steady herself than to interrupt. "Not bad," she said, projecting casual confidence for those watching her. "But can you keep it up?" Khalil didn't look at her. His left hand surged into a rolling bass line, while his right hand carved a melody so delicate it seemed to float. The answer wasn't in words. It was in music that refused to bow to anyone's expectations. Whispers turned into silence. Skeptical grins faded into awe. The performance was no longer a curiosity. It was a revelation. From the back, the hotel's chef leaned against the service door, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the piano. A pair of waiters set their trays down entirely, unwilling to miss what was happening. Khalil's music climbed higher, twisting into patterns that shimmered like glass under light. Then, without warning, he dropped into a minor key, filling the room with shadows. The shift was startling, electric, like a sudden storm rolling over calm waters. Guests inhaled sharply, caught in the swell. Sabrina's smirk had disappeared, her arms crossed, not in control but in defense. The janitor she had barely noticed was now bending the entire evening around himself. And still he played. A soft melody like a lullaby emerged, fragile and intimate, each note holding the weight of memory. The crowd leaned closer, afraid even a breath might break it. A man whispered, "That's Rachmaninoff." "No," another corrected. "Listen carefully. It's his own. He's weaving it together." Khalil's eyes closed. His body leaned into the rhythm, his soul spilling through every key. The music was not simply performance. It was confession. A lifetime of silence, of being overlooked, of unseen brilliance now demanded recognition. The finale came like thunder. His hands blurred across the piano, right hand in cascading arpeggios, left hand striking deep, echoing chords that shook the floor. The sound rose, brighter, fiercer, until the last note rang and lingered in the air. Then silence. A silence so heavy it pressed against every chest in the room. Khalil sat still, his hands resting on the keys, head bowed slightly as if granting the music one final breath. The spell broke with a roar of applause. Not polite clapping, not forced courtesy, but cheers, whistles, people rising to their feet without realizing it. The ballroom thundered with approval. Sabrina clapped too, though her mind was elsewhere. She had meant to control the evening. Instead, she had unleashed something she could not contain. Khalil finally looked up. His gaze was calm, steady, almost detached. He had not played for them. He had played because the music was his. And in that moment, everyone understood they hadn't witnessed a stunt. They had witnessed genius. The applause did not fade quickly. It rolled through the ballroom like waves echoing against the marble walls, louder and more genuine than any toast of the night. Some guests stood, clapping furiously, while others simply stared, stunned by what they had just witnessed. Sabrina remained near the piano, her emerald gown glowing in the golden light. She clapped too, but the rhythm of her hands slowed as her eyes locked on Khalil. She had seen performers, professionals, artists flown in from around the world for private concerts. Yet never had she felt the atmosphere shift this way. It unsettled her. It humbled her. Khalil lifted his hands from the keys and placed them in his lap. His head remained slightly bowed as though giving the moment time to breathe. He did not bow, did not smile, did not seek their approval. He simply waited. Finally, he raised his gaze to Sabrina. His voice was calm, steady, almost soft. "Most things worth remembering aren't planned." The words struck something in the room. A murmur of approval ran through the crowd, not the mocking kind from before, but quiet, genuine agreement. A woman in a silver wrap stepped forward. Her face was warm, her eyes bright. "Young man," she said gently, "where did you learn to play like that?" Khalil rested his hands on his knees. "At home. My mother bought a broken piano from a church down the street when I was 10. Some keys didn't work, but it was enough." The woman smiled. "Well, it worked well enough for you to own this room tonight." Another man, tuxedo sharp and voice tinged with arrogance, interjected. "So no lessons, no conservatory, just figured it out?" Khalil looked at him briefly. His reply was measured. Figuring it out is the training. That line drew unexpected laughter, not cruel, but admiring. Even Sabrina cracked a faint smile. The hotel's general manager, a tall man with salt and pepper hair, stepped forward, placing a hand on Khalil's shoulder. "How long have you worked here?" "8 months," Khalil answered. "And you've been hiding this the whole time?" Khalil shook his head lightly. "I wasn't hiding. No one ever asked." That answer carried weight. A few people shifted uncomfortably, reminded of how they had dismissed him. Sabrina herself tilted her head, eyes narrowing as though she'd just been bested at her own game. "Well," she said, voice lighter now, "it looks like I've just broken one of my own rules." "And what's that?" Khalil asked. "Never be upstaged at my own event." This time the laughter was genuine, shared, even warm. The sharpness in the air had softened. The tension was gone, replaced by something Sabrina rarely allowed in her orbit. Respect, freely given, not demanded. A reporter from the Charlotte Observer edged forward, phone raised. "Khalil, could I get a quick video of you? Just your name and where you're from?" Khalil shook his head politely. "I'd rather let the music speak." The reporter lowered her phone, almost embarrassed, and nodded. Then from the back, a voice rang out, "Play another one." Others echoed the request, but Khalil only smiled faintly and stood. One was enough. People parted instinctively, giving him space as he picked up his work caddy. A few guests reached to shake his hand, some sincere, others merely caught up in the glow of the moment. He accepted each with the same quiet nod. Sabrina watched him walk toward the service hallway. For a woman used to commanding attention, it was strange, almost infuriating, to watch someone seize the room without even trying. She wasn't sure if she admired him or resented him. Perhaps both. As Khalil disappeared through the side door, the ballroom buzzed with chatter. Guests leaned close, whispering excitedly about him, about the performance, about the fact that the man who had stolen the night wore a janitor's uniform. Sabrina ran her hand along the piano lid, her mind racing. She knew the clip would be online before she reached her apartment. Already she imagined headlines. The piano janitor, hidden genius at gala, billionaire mocked by her own challenge. And she was right. By the time her driver pulled up at her high-rise, her phone was vibrating endlessly. Notifications flooded in, texts, missed calls, social media tags. One message read, "Is this your gala?" It came with a shaky video link. The clip captured everything. Khalil's hesitant first notes, the fading laughter, the silent awe, and the thunderous ovation. By midnight, it had over 300,000 views. By dawn, millions. Online, hashtags spread like fire. Piano janitor, hidden genius, Khalil Brantley. TikTok creators stitched the clip, pointing out the exact second the wealthy guests realized they had underestimated him. Some posts praised his raw talent, others criticized the arrogance of the room. And through it all, one thing was certain: Khalil's life was no longer his own. By morning, Khalil's name was everywhere. On Twitter, hashtags multiplied. Piano janitor, hidden genius, Khalil Brantley. TikTok creators replayed the shaky clip, freezing the exact second the crowd's smug amusement turned into awe. Instagram feeds filled with his calm face at the piano, paired with captions like, "Talent has no dress code." Khalil woke to his old laptop buzzing with notifications. Messages from friends, old classmates, even strangers flooded in. A friend wrote, "Bro, you're everywhere. Start a YouTube channel. Cash in." Khalil rubbed his eyes, staring at the glow of the screen. Fame had never been his dream. Music was private, something sacred. And now, it was dissected by millions who didn't even know his name a week ago. Meanwhile, the Crystal Bay Hotel was swarmed with reporters. Local news stations wanted interviews. National outlets were calling. The hotel manager tried to protect staff, but the story had already escaped his control. Sabrina sipped coffee in her penthouse, phone glued to her ear. Her publicist spoke quickly, sharply. "This is bigger than you think. People love the clip, but some are criticizing how the room treated him. You need to comment, show support, arrange a photo op, maybe a follow-up concert. He's not a prop, Sabrina replied flatly. If he wants to meet, I will. If not, I won't force it. The publicist groaned. That's not how the internet works. But Sabrina meant it. For once, she wasn't in control. Khalil, scrolling through posts in his cramped apartment above a laundromat, felt uneasy. Many comments were kind, but others were cynical. Staged stunt? PR trick? Who's really behind this? That afternoon, his phone rang. A journalist from the Charlotte Ledger. Do you plan to pursue music full-time now? Khalil hesitated. I haven't decided. A viral video shouldn't decide my life. Then what do you want people to take away from this? He leaned back, staring at the cracked ceiling. That you don't know someone just by looking, and talent doesn't wear a uniform. The quote spread faster than the video. By evening, his words appeared in headlines. 2 days later, Sabrina requested a private meeting. Not at the hotel, not at a stage, but at Marlowe's Coffee House, a quiet spot on Main Street. Khalil agreed, though reluctantly. He arrived first, sitting at a corner table. The shop smelled of roasted beans and warm pastries. He traced the rim of his coffee cup, waiting. 5 minutes later, Sabrina swept in, hair pinned neatly, emerald earrings flashing in the morning sun. She slid into the chair opposite him. Traffic, she said with a polite smile. No problem, Khalil replied. His voice was calm, but his eyes carried guarded distance. For a moment, silence lingered, filled only by the hiss of the espresso machine. Then Sabrina leaned forward, elbows on the table. I owe you an apology, she said, her tone stripped of showmanship. That night I made you a joke. You turned it into something unforgettable. Khalil studied her, expression steady. I didn't do it to prove you wrong. I know, she admitted, stirring her coffee. Which makes it worse for me. Khalil exhaled, almost a laugh. You were just talking. People say things without realizing how they sound. I've been on the receiving end before. Sabrina's eyes softened. Your playing, it wasn't just good. It felt lived in, like you've been carrying it for years. Khalil nodded faintly. Since I was 10. My mom bought a beat-up piano from a church, keys chipped, a couple broken, but it was enough. She couldn't afford lessons. I taught myself, messed up, tried again. Sometimes I snuck into the community center until the janitor kicked me out. Sabrina smiled wryly. And now you're the janitor. Khalil grinned. Funny how that works. Her smile faded into curiosity. Why not pursue it professionally? He looked down at his hands. Life. My mom got sick when I was 17. Bills piled up. Music doesn't keep the lights on unless you get lucky. So I worked. Piano stayed with me, but privately. Mine. Sabrina listened in silence. Then she spoke slowly. Your performance meant something. I've had strangers message me saying it reminded them of their childhoods, their fathers, dreams they gave up. It stirred something in people. Khalil's gaze shifted to the window. That's nice, but I don't want to be a viral charity case. I'm not offering charity, she said firmly. I'm offering a stage. You deserve it. He met her eyes, cautious. And if I don't want it? Then nothing changes. You keep playing for yourself. But you've been handed a chance most people never get. If you say yes, I can put you in front of audiences who will truly listen. Khalil thought of his mother, humming along while folding laundry, telling him, You're telling stories without words. She would have wanted him to share them. Still, hesitation held him. Sabrina leaned back, reading his silence. I won't push, just think about it. Your music already silenced a room full of people who weren't listening. Imagine what it could do for people who are. Khalil finally set down his cup. I'll think about it. They spoke a little longer, about her foundation, his job at the hotel, the strange way life handed you a spotlight when you weren't asking for one. When they stood to leave, Sabrina extended her hand. "Whatever you decide, you have my respect, and that's not something I give lightly." Khalil shook it. "I'll keep that in mind." But what neither realized, the decision wouldn't wait for him. The world was still knocking. 3 days later, Khalil was pushing his cleaning cart through the banquet hallway when the front desk clerk hurried toward him. "You've got a visitor," she said, slightly breathless. "I'm working," he replied. "She's not leaving until you talk to her." Confused, Khalil stepped into the lobby. A woman in her late 30s turned, a toddler balanced on her hip. Her denim jacket was worn, her eyes tired yet hopeful. When she saw him, they lit up. "You don't know me," she began softly, "but I watched your video twice. My son here, he doesn't speak much yet, but when I played your clip, he sat still and listened the whole way through. That never happens." Khalil looked at the child, wide-eyed and silent, staring back at him. The woman's voice trembled. "My husband passed last year. It's been hard, that music. It was the first time in months my home felt peaceful. I just wanted to say thank you. I know you didn't do it for us, but it mattered." Khalil's throat tightened. After a pause, he offered the only words he could. "I'm glad it found you when you needed it." When she left, something shifted in him. Until then, the viral clip had felt like something happening to him. Now it felt like something he might shape. That evening, he called Sabrina. "If the offer's still there," he said quietly, "I'll take the stage." 2 weeks later, the Uptown Theater in Dallas buzzed with anticipation. Sabrina's foundation had arranged the concert. Reporters filled the aisles, donors took their seats, and families crowded the balconies. Backstage, Khalil paced lightly, palms warm. "Feels different than the gala," he murmured. "Because this time," Sabrina said with a knowing smile, "they came for you." When his name was announced, the applause began before he touched the keys. The Steinway on stage gleamed under the spotlight. Khalil sat, breathed, and began. The first piece was his own. Gospel warmth blended with classical depth, melodies swelling like tides. The theater stilled, the kind of silence heavy with attention. When the final chord faded, the applause was instant, rising, full. Between pieces, Khalil spoke briefly. "Most people will only ever know you from a glimpse, a few seconds, but that's never the whole story. We all carry more inside us. Sometimes you just need the right moment to let it out." For nearly 40 minutes he played. His final piece was the same one from the gala, but now it belonged to him fully. When the last note lingered, the entire audience rose in a standing ovation. In the wings, Sabrina clapped with genuine joy, her earlier arrogance long gone. She had helped bring him here, but the stage was his alone. After the concert, people approached not just with compliments, but with stories of their own. Instruments left in attics, dreams abandoned for survival, talents they had stopped believing in. His music had unlocked something in them. Outside, the cool night wrapped around him. Khalil looked up at the theater's glowing sign. He didn't know if this was the start of a career or simply a chapter he'd one day tell. But he knew one thing. His music wasn't hiding anymore. Sometimes, the right moment comes when you're not asking. But when it does, you'd better be ready, and tonight Khalil Brantley was.